Welcome everyone to our virtual speaker series for the WISE Conference 2021. We saved the best for last. What can I say? All right, we have Dawn Candy standing by. She is a networking extraordinaire. And I kind of want everyone to understand why we know that. Her resume is outstanding. The amount of opportunities that she takes advantage of and the connections that she makes, she's kind of like a matchmaker for the business world. She seems to like meet someone and go, I know exactly who I need to plug you in with, and I know exactly how we can all help each other. And it's incredible. So I want to let you guys know just quickly kind of her bio and where she comes from. And then she is going to dive into lots of tips and ways to really maximize your networking opportunities, which of course, that's one of the main reasons we all get together for this conference. So Dawn Candy is the founder, if you didn't know, founder and owner of I Promote You. It's a strategic marketing and promotional products company, and she's been doing that since 2008. She's a long-standing member of the Advertising Specialty Institute, Promotional Products Association International, the Woodlands Area Chamber of Commerce, and Leadership Montgomery County alumni. She's very involved in the neighborhood and holds leadership positions there. She also is with the Montgomery County Women's Council of Organizations, Montgomery County Association of Businesswomen, MCABW, and WISE, Women Inspiring and Supporting Entrepreneurs, where she's also our event coordinator. She has been recognized by the Association of Fundraising Professionals. She's received Outstanding Community Volunteer for 2013, the Woodlands Area Chamber of Commerce Volunteer of the Year in 2014, and she's recognized as a Woman of Distinction by MCABW in 2019 and by the Business Women's Forum in 2012 and 2013. So not only does she know how to do what she's doing, other people are taking note as well because she's taken home some of those amazing designations. In addition to that, if that wasn't enough, she and her husband, Randy, have 3 adult children between them and 7 grandchildren. So I am just on pins and needles waiting to hear how on earth you have time to volunteer, run a company, and also be an outstanding member of the community, especially where you live, and also, be involved with your family. So Dawn, take it away from there. Good morning.
Thank you, Michelle, and thank you everybody who is tuning in today. I greatly appreciate you guys being here. I realize as you're reading my bio, I should update it a little bit. We do have an 8th grandbaby now, so he's only about I think 5 months old now, so but I need to update that. So I'm really excited to be talking about this because when I'm out and about networking in person nowadays, it is a new experience. And so I wanted to share some of the tips that I learned during the whole pandemic and us having to reposition ourselves as far as networking is concerned. And so I'm happy to dive in and share some of these tips with you. And you guys bear with me. It's the first time I've done Zoom and shared my screen. So I'm hoping that, here we go. Great. So I could figure out where my my buttons were. So first of all, what I want to do is just kind of review networking etiquette. And we're actually going to go over both the in-person, which is the traditional, and the virtual. So when we are in person, if you've not been out and about for a little bit, this is a great refresher course for you. But I want you to remember that you're not there to sell your product and service when you're networking. You're actually there to start building relationships because people buy from people they know, like, and trust. And so we are not out there just a billboard for what it is that we're selling. And as soon as someone walks up, we start trying to sell our product to them before we even get to know their name, their company, a little bit about them. And that's really what networking is about, to start the conversation. And so I want you to keep that in mind as you get back out and about. Think about how you're going to dress and what your attitude is going to be walking into that networking event. Dress is very important because number one, we want you to be industry appropriate. A lot of people say, what should I wear? Well, what do you wear for your business? That's perfectly acceptable to wear during a networking event. And so keep that in mind. But you also want to be comfortable. And I encourage people to wear something that has pockets. The reason I say that is because you want to bring your business cards with you. And there's an old trick, I'm going to call it an old trick because for years and years I've heard this, where you would take someone's business card and place it in your right pocket and you keep yours in your left pocket so you don't get them mixed up, right? So when someone does ask you for a business card, you're a little smoother about being able to grab it and not fumble through the cards that you've already accepted from someone at a networking event. So just a little tip for you there as well. And then what's your attitude going in? Are you tired from the day and you just think, oh, I don't know why I'm coming to this thing. It's probably not even going to be, successful for me. I'm not going to meet the right people. That's not a great attitude to have, obviously, because we don't want to come up and start talking to someone in a negative manner and have them think, oh, that's how they are all the time, right? We're just having a bad day that day. So go in with a positive attitude. Look at it as a new opportunity for you. You're going to be able to meet some new people. You're going to have an enjoyable time while you're there, and you can decompress and unwind just a little bit while you're getting to know these new people that you've not met before. And I did mention business cards. Please bring them. Please bring them. I run into people sometimes at a networking event who don't have cards on them. And it's really a struggle, because if I want to get to know you and I want to reach out to you later, I am going to give you my card, but now I feel I'm at your mercy. When there's something really important that I want to share with you, I want to tell you about an opportunity that I realized as you were talking to me about just yourself, your personal things that you're interested in. Maybe you've got a charity that you feel very passionate about and you share that. If I don't have your business card, I can't be as responsive to you. So really, really important that you bring your business cards with you. Let's talk about our volume and our tone of voice. This has kind of changed for me because as I get older, there's background noise in some of these places that we go to. Everyone is talking, so there's a lot of loud in this room. It's very difficult sometimes to hear people. And so I encourage you to watch your volume, watch your tone of voice, right? You always want to sound friendly and everything, but the volume sometimes may have to shift. If you're networking with someone like me, I've got a little bit of I have a lot of salt in my hair nowadays instead of salt and pepper, but that background noise sometimes interrupts us, and we have to start reading your lips. Right. And so I just encourage you to be mindful of that. If someone's leaning in, that is body language to tell you, I'm having a hard time hearing you. So pay attention to who you're talking to, because they're going to give you some really good tips on how to communicate with them better. Watching their body language, really important. Eye contact. I talk about this so much because when I walk into a networking event and I meet with someone and I am talking to them for the very first time, if I start looking over my shoulder, over their shoulder, I'm looking other places, I don't really look interested in what they're saying. I don't look engaged in the conversation. So I'm going to encourage you to keep an eye, just pay attention next time you go to an event. It's very easy to get distracted. People are walking in and out. I understand that. But when you're speaking to somebody, make eye contact with them. That means the world to them. Proper handshake. Okay, I'm going to preface this with proper handshake when we go back to actually shaking hands with people instead of the old elbow bump right now, or the fist bump, or, just I don't know, there's kind of the shoulder thing going on too, because some people it's like, do I hug? Do I not hug? Maybe we'll just rub shoulders for a second. So it makes it a little bit awkward, socially awkward when you're in networking events right now. Some people will just put their hand out for you. So have a proper handshake. And by that, I mean, have your hand firm, have it tight, have your wrist straight, shake their hand. When we're in person and we're doing this event, we show a lot of demonstrations, and it's very difficult to do it over Zoom, but I do want to encourage you. We've had conversations, and you guys may have some questions that you ask about this handshake later, but I personally use both hands. When I'm meeting with somebody and I'm shaking their hand, I have the handshake here, but I cup their hand, because for me, it's a true pleasure to get to know someone, to meet someone, to figure out how can I help you. So for me, it's almost a term of endearment. It is one of those, let me bring you into my world. And so that's how it's communicated most of the time. I have had some people in seminars tell me, I don't like that. I don't understand that. That's a little too much for me. And that's okay. Whatever's comfortable for you, whatever you want to give, however you want to give that handshake, but please make sure it's firm and it's not like this. Don't have a limp wrist, don't have a limp hand. Okay. Want to talk about exit strategies. So my husband and I this morning had a situation as we were waiting for the kiddos to get onto the bus, and one of our neighbors walked down and introduced himself. And he stood for a very long time after the bus was gone. And both of us are very busy and we had a very full schedule today. And so, but we were talking to him. He's looking for a job. We were offering some opportunities for him that we were aware of. And it was a good conversation. But I suddenly became aware of the time and thought, oh my goodness, I am really going to give myself some trouble if I don't exit. And so I was completely honest and I said, I'm so sorry. It was so great to visit with you. And I hate to cut this short, but I've got a Zoom that I've got to get on in just a few minutes. And he said, oh, no problem. It was great to meet you guys and I'll be seeing you soon. You know, so he exited. It was wonderful. No problems. Nobody has hurt feelings. But what if you get into a networking event and you're caught? You feel like you're caught. Someone just keeps talking and talking and talking. How do you exit gracefully? How do you exit where they are not feeling put off by you leaving? Like, oh, well, they didn't even care what I was saying. So I think the smoothest and the most graceful way to do this is to tell that person, I am really enjoying our conversation and I want to learn more about you. At that moment, if you haven't exchanged cards already, please do so. Ask them for their business card and say, I'd love to reach out with you to get together for a cup of coffee and further our discussion. You can do that. That's your closing remark. If they continue to go on and on, you can say exactly the same verbiage again, and you can tell them, when I walked in tonight, I had a goal to meet 5 new people. You're my number 2 person. So if you don't mind, I'm going to go continue my networking and meet my goal. And I look forward to connecting with you outside of this event. So you're being honest with them. You're letting them know that there's a reason for you to break. It's not because you're not interested. You definitely are. You're going to connect with them later, but it's a graceful way for you to edge out of the conversation. You could also do an introduction to someone else and kind of turn them over to that other person so they start the conversation again, and you can excuse yourself very gracefully that way. So I want to talk about the virtual etiquette too. And some of these things are overlapping, of course. Your dress and your attitude. You know, we've had one presenter who was talking about how you dress for today, and she talked about dressing from the top up, basically, so you look amazing on Zoom. And you know what? It's not just important so that you look good, but also your attitude's in the right place, right? If you're dressed in your pajamas and you're having a business meeting, you probably feel a little bit more laid back. You may not realize it, but you're feeling a little more casual. If you get dressed like you're going to the office for this appointment, you're going to have your work attitude on. You're going to have that professional attitude on. So think about that. Name. So we all have our little boxes, right? And we have our name in our box, which I think everybody that I see so far, it looks like, yes, you do have your name. Please make sure it's your name, your name. It is not your son, your daughter, your husband, you know, whoever you share your computer with. Make sure that this is one of the first things you check. And if you want to include your company name, do so. Sometimes they're so long they can't be included, and that's okay. But please make sure that your full name is in the name box, okay? Set a neutral background for yourself or one that brands you. And the reason I say this, we're going to get into it a little bit more, but you know, you want to put your best face forward, right? And so if it is all about your business, put your business logo behind you. Create that virtual background to do that. It's a great way to market your business subliminally as you're on the Zoom call. Double check your connections and your sound. I'm going to encourage you to get on a little bit early to do this test. Make sure your mic's working, make sure your sound is working, make sure you know where everything is before you actually hit to engage on that Zoom. And this handy little trick, set up a Word document with all your contact information. your name, your company name, your tagline, if you have one, whether you've got a website, your direct phone number and your office phone number, maybe you want to include your cell, whatever, and your email address. Put all of that in a Word document and open that before your Zoom so that you can use that information later. We're going to copy and paste. Okay, so it's just a really quick way instead of you having to sit there and type constantly. Okay. All right. Really, really important. I know you guys probably all have a Zoom fatigue at this point, but I want you to also keep in mind when you've got a virtual event, block it as if it were an in-person meeting. This is your time and your attention. Make the most of it. Make the most of this virtual event. If it's a networking event, you want to make sure you put your best face forward, right? When you're on a virtual event, please keep your camera on. I'm trying to build a relationship with you and I can't do it with a black screen and a name. Okay. And then I can't do it with your photo, although I love the professional photos that I see and they're beautiful. And yes, I'm building a little bit of a relationship with your picture, but I'd much rather see your face as you're speaking than I would to see your photo there or a dark screen. Okay. So please keep your cameras on. Mute yourself when you're not speaking. That's just common courtesy. There's a lot of background noise, and sometimes we don't even realize that we're not on mute, and we're hearing conversations that are going on that we probably shouldn't be hearing and things like that. So just make sure you mute yourself when you're not speaking. Be certain your lighting is good. I've been on lots of Zoom calls where we have had people who we could not see their face, and I asked if they were in witness protection just because you can't see their face. And it's like, how can I build a relationship with the silhouette in the window, right? So make sure your lighting is good. All right. Again, I mentioned backgrounds. Make sure they're clutter-free. Make sure that you got something nice that's not super distracting. I have a great friend who I love very dearly, and he's got some amazing backgrounds that he loves to use. One of them is this dinosaur that moves, and sometimes it looks like it's eating his head, and it's hysterical, and he's funny, but when we're in a business meeting, it's probably not appropriate. So just keep that in mind too. That is very distracting. If I'm trying to pay attention to the speaker and I see that in the corner of my eye going on, it's very distracting. Refrain from eating during the meeting. Even if it's a lunchtime meeting, try to grab the bite before or after, because again, you want to act like this is an in-person meeting. I know we have lots of networking events where food and beverage are served and things like that. It's a little easier to do and maybe a little more acceptable even when you're in person. But when you're on Zoom, it's a little awkward for us to sit there and watch you have your lunch, right? So try to refrain from that. And then also from multitasking. Man, this is a hard one, but because we have booked the virtual event in our calendar as an appointment, that's what we need to keep in our mind too. Don't check emails, don't check your phone, have it silent, and pay attention to what's going on. Again, if this is a virtual networking event, you've got to be present. You want to get the most out of it because yes, we all have the Zoom fatigue that everyone talks about. So if we're on it, there's a reason we're on it. And what is that reason? It's to make some kind of connection with somebody, right? So pay attention and be engaged. And here's where I put in copy and paste your information in the chat and do it multiple times. And the reason you do this when you're at a networking event, if you are getting on a little bit earlier than someone else and they jump on and you posted your information when you first got on, they don't see it. The chat doesn't start until someone actually joins the Zoom. So if I came in today at 10:15, but Michelle put her information in the chat at 10:05, I will not see it. So I'm going to encourage you to put it in there a couple of different times throughout the meeting, probably right after you do your commercial or presentation. You might want to do it a little bit after you've gotten on the call and a few minutes before you get off the call towards the end of the meeting when you know they're about to wrap up. And then you may even want to save that chat. If that's a possibility, go ahead and save that chat so you can follow up with all the others who have learned these types of lessons and are doing these things as well. This is a funny one. So remember that you're on camera. Your camera is on. What is your default face? What's that expression? Right? I know Michelle's laughing right now. What's that expression that you have on your face? Sometimes mine looks angry and it's really just concentration. I can appear to be very stoic and very unemotional when I'm really not feeling that way, right? So keep that in mind. I don't want you to always be looking at yourself when you're on the Zoom, but do kind of check every once in a while. Just make sure that your default face is a smile, or at least it's pleasant, right? Get on the call early and stay late. As soon as you can log on 15 minutes early, and if that host doesn't let you in until 10 or 5 till, at least you're still there, right? And you get on as soon as everybody else does. So you can start doing some networking. It's so much easier when you get on early and that host opens it up early, because very few people do. So you can start building those relationships from the very beginning. So get on early and stay late, because some people will hang out a little bit later, and you can connect with them as well and actually have a conversation rather than having to use chat. Which brings me to paying attention to the chat. I can't tell you the number of times I've direct messaged somebody while we were in a Zoom and I never get a response from them. They're not paying attention to the chat at all. And so I encourage you to check the chat. If you have a direct message, like I just mentioned, it does show up red next to the person's name. It shows up in your chat feed. However, you've got to scroll a little bit sometimes. If more chats are going through, you may not always see it. And so if you just kind of keep an eye on it, so whenever that chat button pops up and you see there are 5 messages, scroll back through and see what's going on, because one of them might be directly for you. Okay. And make sure you're using the chat to connect with people and exchange information. Copy and paste that information, like I mentioned. If there's somebody that you do want to directly talk to about having an appointment, a meeting, whatever, and you direct message them and you don't get a response, I say it's okay. Go ahead with everyone and just say, at whoever you're trying to reach out to, I'd love to have coffee. Please connect, so that everyone sees it in the chat. And that may help you get your message to that person a little bit easier as well. So let's talk about some networking goals. I mentioned that just briefly. And I want to kind of go over these a little bit. Before the event, I want you to set a goal. I want you to think about, what's the event look like? What is it for? What's your purpose for going? Why do you want to go? Is it because you want to start building those relationships and making some connections for increased business? Or maybe you want to find a strategic partner, somebody that you can refer business to and they can refer to you as well. Again, you're going to be building those relationships, but you do need to identify those people, right? So set the goal. If you feel ambitious, 5 is a really good number, because when you're networking, you do sometimes get held up in conversations, not just with new people, but with your friends too, because of course you want to say hey to them as well. So keep that in mind. 5 is probably a little ambitious. 3 is probably a more manageable goal. So how many people do you want to meet? 3 to 5 new people. 3 to 5 new people. And you want to connect with them offline, right? Which means you want to do it in person if you can. Some people are meeting in person and then saying, hey, let's meet by Zoom. And that's okay. It's a little bit harder, but at least you've met them in person first. But figure out how you're going to connect with them. Make sure you're exchanging business cards and you're getting that information from them so that you can reach out later. And then how many existing relationships are you going to nurture while you're there, right? Those existing ones are so important. And I don't know about you, but when I go to an event, I am so fortunate that I walk in and I see someone I've done business with, and I will go up and say hello, and I'm continuing to nurture that relationship. And it almost never fails. They introduce me to someone else who needs my products and services and gives a testimonial at that moment. That's gold, right? You can't do that on your own. So make sure that you are going up to those existing relationships that you have and continue to nurture them, because that's so, so important. All right, what are we going to do when the event is all over? We're going to follow up. Okay, so how do we do that? we're going to, when we connect with them, whether it is by email or we're making a phone call, depending on the person, if they said text message is okay with them, you're texting them. You want to remind them of where you met. You want to remind them of part of your conversation, because it does two things. Number one, it helps them remember who you are. But number two, it tells them that you were listening and you were engaged and you picked up a piece of information that you are expanding on in this communication for further connection. Okay. If you told somebody at a networking event that you were going to do something, then please do it. Okay. I run into a lot of women in our community that don't know about some of the networking groups that I'm a part of. And I tell them, I'm going to send you an email with a few organizations that I'm part of that I'd love for you to come to the meeting and see if it's a good fit for you. And within the next day or two, and I give myself 2 days actually, to send that email and say, it was so great to meet you. As I mentioned, here are the organizations I'm a part of, and I would love to see you come and just check them out, see if they're a good fit. So I bring it back into the conversation, but do it and be timely about it. Do not, if you can do it within 24 to 48 hours, that's great. If it ends up being a week later, you can still send that email, but apologize for not sending it right away. Let them know that you value their time. You wanted to do what you said you would do. Things just got away from you. Happens to all of us. So just be honest with them and just let them know, I'm so sorry for the delay. Things got behind. I'm just now catching up. And here's the information I promised you. Okay. I want to talk about your commercial just a little bit. I'm going to guess that we probably are going to have a lot of professionals on this Zoom, so I won't go over this a whole lot, but the things that I want to point out to you at the very beginning, of course, please say your name, your company name, and the service that you provide, and then tell me what's different about you. What's different about either you personally, your product, or your service? What kind of problem can you solve for me? That's going to resonate with me and help me remember. Okay. And then at the very closing, make sure that you say your name, your company name again, because a lot of times we hear it the first time, but then you say something that makes me think, oh, I need to call them. Oh, shoot. What was their name again? And so you make sure that you repeat your name and your company name in the closing. For your commercial, be prepared to do a 15-second, a 30-second, and a 60-second commercial. That 15 is what we call just a drop and go. Okay. It really is just kind of those first four lines there. You probably don't have the time to say your closing again unless you're really good and you can get that whole commercial in there. 30 seconds, expand on the products and services. Talk about that a little bit more. Tell a testimonial or give them a story. Give them an example of how you solved a problem for somebody else in your 30 and your 60 second. That's how you can spread the commercial out. Even make it seasonal if you need to do that. But I encourage you to have those ready to go, because you never know what networking event that you're going to be at where they say, normally you have 60 seconds, but sorry, today we only get 30 because of the number of people in the room. And you think, oh my gosh, I had this whole thing all planned out. What am I going to do now? Okay. So make sure you've got those in your back pocket. And then practice. How do you do that? You go to networking events. So I've got quite a few of them here. Some of them that I'm a part of, but of course I could not start without including MCABW and WAMTech. Those are our two hosts for the WISE conference, and these are great organizations and great networking opportunities for you. Each one of them have multiple events throughout the month, and you can visit their websites to learn more information about them, what they do, and when they meet. Also, BNI, Business Networking International. I am part of a chapter. There are several in our community. And so you can go on to bni.com and you can put in your zip code and you can find chapters and you can go and visit and just kind of get a feel for what that organization is all about and if one of those chapters might be a good fit for you. The Woodlands Chamber as well. I've been active with them for gosh, almost 30 years, if I can believe it. I think I was 10 when I started there. But it's a great organization. They have so many projects that they work on every single year, and great ways for you to make connections with business professionals and also get in touch with the community and the nonprofits in our community as well. American Business Women's Association, another great organization, local chapters here in the Montgomery County and Spring area. Conroe, the Greater Conroe, Lake Conroe Chamber of Commerce, fabulous networking. If you want to spend more opportunities in Conroe and north of Conroe, that's a great place for you to get connected. And then Magnolia Parkway Chamber of Commerce, which is along the 1488 corridor. There's so many. Inspired Leaders, this is a great one. It doesn't cost you anything to attend their monthly event, but you can go on and see who their speakers are going to be coming up. And it's just a great opportunity to network with other business professionals. Reveille Networking Group is every Friday at Luby's here in the Woodlands, and it is an Aggie-based organization. However, everyone is invited, and we have people from business owners to corporate employees to retirees, and we give back to the community every year. And so it's just another awesome networking opportunity for you as well. And it is weekly. NIA, Networking in Action, several chapters in the Houston area. I was on their website the other day and could not believe the number of chapters in the Houston area, Houston and Conroe. So take a look at that. And with that, gosh, I speak so fast. With that, I'm going to open it up for any questions. I don't know if anybody has anything yet to ask me, or if anybody wants to share.
I do. I want to know how you manage your time between all of the different organizations. Because I mean, they all sound appealing to me, for example, then I'm like, oh, we have volleyball and baseball and football. And I'm like, I want to be 100 people, but I can't.
Yeah. So it is difficult. And the biggest, I think biggest advice I can give to you is to be strategic. I'm giving you all these opportunities. I'm listing all of these opportunities, but really I would encourage you to be very strategic. And number one, know what you're looking for in a networking group, know what you want to get out of it, and then start visiting some of these as you can. You know, it doesn't have to be the end all be all that you got to join everything. You don't have to do that, but just know what you're looking for and go, and you're almost interviewing those organizations to find out, is it going to be a valuable use of my time? Are the people that are in the room here the right people? And so that's how I would narrow it down for you. Of course, for me, promotional products are everywhere and everyone needs them, in my opinion. And so, you know, it's a great opportunity for me to go and to visit and to be a part of as many things as I can and be as active as I can. Time management is one of the things that I work on. There are a lot of days I am at my desk on the computer the whole day. And then there are other days when I am on the road and I am fitting in seeing clients and going to networking events and just kind of filling it all in. And those are my super active days. And quite frankly, more of my happy days, because I prefer to be in front of people rather than behind the computer working. So, you know, the best answer I can give you on that, Michelle, is really to be strategic and thoughtful about what you're looking for in that networking group, and try to attend some, even reach out to some of their members and tell them what your goal is, and ask, do you think this is a good fit for me? Because that can help you eliminate a lot of things if you do it that way. You're muted, Michelle.
I'm sorry. I almost think, like, for me personally, I almost need to just make like an appointment on my calendar or my phone or something, like, okay, from 12 to 1 on Saturday or whatever day that is like your quieter day, I'm going to follow up on networking or reach out to some networking groups. Or because I know for me, when I was working in, you know, the outside business world, every time I made a career change, every opportunity that came along was all networking. And especially working in television, and you're trying to get story ideas and you're trying to tell people about the community and what's going on in your city and in the world. How do you think that happens? You get to know people. Right. And you don't just get to know people by sitting at home and being too busy to go. Those are people that are hustling and they're getting out there and they're figuring it out, and you have to make sacrifices. I struggle with that so much because it's that constant battle of finding the balance. Like you do need days where you just are quiet, and that's when sometimes creativity is coming, and then you do need days where you are just hustling.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I know it's hard.
true. Yeah.
It's really hard. I also had a question on handshakes. I just wanted to know what you would suggest if someone reaches out for a handshake in person and you're not really in the mood for that, or you don't have your hand sanitizer on you for directly after. I'm a hugger, to be quite honest. Like I want to hug everybody. Forget the handshake. And I know that's super, like, we don't even need to go there, but I love the idea of a handshake I love that just endearing gesture of, like, you call that kind of cupping their hand.
Yes.
I feel like I don't see many people do that. And I thought that was an awesome suggestion. I know you said sometimes people have an issue with that, but I almost want to back it up and think in today's world, I know some people, like, I'll reach out my hand to shake and they're just kind of like, yo, they kind of throw an elbow at you, or they're kind of like, yeah, it's cool, like.
I know it's so awkward nowadays because I too am a hugger. And so it's one of those things where I start to go in for it. And I've had it a couple of times where it's kind of like they're backing up. I said, oh, I'm sorry. So now I've learned to ask, are you okay with a hug? And people will tell you, they'll be honest with you and let you know, I'm really not, or whatever. I've also noticed that in a lot of in-person networking events, they're using little dots as an indicator on whether or not you can, hug or shake or whatever. So a little green dot is good. They're good to go. Yellow is I'm a little cautious, and red is like, no, just don't try to hug, shake, anything. You just say hello. And so I love that too. And so if you've got a name tag, and I might have skipped over that in my presentation, but if you've got a name tag and you're okay with all of it, go ahead and just add a little green dot to your name tag and you bring it yourself. That way, everybody knows that's at that event that you're okay with a hug, you're okay with a handshake, whatever. So that's just one way, I think, one sign that you could probably do right now, because I think that's really important to respect others' boundaries and just whatever they're comfortable with.
Yeah.
Right.
I've seen that with like elementary age kids. The teacher has a sign outside the door, like, do you want a fist bump? Do you want to dance? Do you want a hug? Like, what do you need? What's that kid comfortable with? And I think that translates right into these days for adults.
Yeah.
What did you call the resting face on Zoom?
It's your default face.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's such a nice way.
I was thinking about the resting, yeah.
The RBF, or what is it? Anyway, that's for another day. But that was a very nice way of putting that, because I did notice, in fact, my husband and I were just talking about this yesterday because he's doing a lot of Zooms, and he said, well, golly, I finally looked at myself on the thing and I'm all up in the screen, like with this scowl all the time. He's like, I look like a mean man. And he's like, I had to literally rub the wrinkles out of my forehead and like fix my face, so that was an awesome tip, because I do find that I'm interested, I'm listening, I'm processing, and I'm literally going, where there's this weird, it's almost like a screen. Like you forget that just because you're on electronics,
right,
people can still see you and they're feeding off of your body language, even if it's from, and
yes.
In person, I would probably be more like, more alive, but because you're on electronics, you kind of are doing your own little face, what is it, default face.
That's right. Because you're focused on what they're saying and you're just really into it, which is great, but you're absolutely right. Yeah.
That was great advice. And then I had one other, sorry, is there anything in the chat?
I do see a couple questions,
okay.
and I'm sorry, I'm looking over my shoulder to another screen, but I see one question. As a rule of thumb, how many business cards should you take to a networking event? So I would say if I were you, I'd bring 20. I would bring 20. And I mean, it kind of depends on how large the event is. And it depends on, is that, like I'll tell you in my B&I chapter, when we have visitors that come, we ask you to pass your business cards around so everybody can take one. And there's 25 members in my chapter. And then if we have more visitors, you might need 50 business cards, right? So it kind of depends on the event that you're going to, and if you're going to have that opportunity, or is it just a mixer or something where you're going to be networking with people and only handing out when somebody asks you for one. I say 20, you're not going to give away 20 probably, but I never want you to run out, because that's just as bad as never having them. And so I would much rather we err on the side of more than less.
So, and on the business cards, I mean, are you seeing more people just saying, hey, can I just shoot you a text? And then they immediately are in and you can start communicating?
No. I mean, there's a few people that are doing that, but no, for the most part, people still like business cards.
Okay.
And you know, the big thing for me about business cards is I do have them sitting on my computer. And so and it helps me to kind of remember, oh, I had this conversation with them. I need to send them that email. It's just a nice reminder to have that tangible product. So I encourage you to make sure you've got business cards with you, at least 20. If you're going to that kind of mixer, if you're going to BNI or some other organized event like that, where they're going to let you pass them around and everybody might take one, bring 50 with you just to be safe. There's one other question. How do you recover when introducing someone and you don't remember their name? So,
oh, that's the worst.
Yeah.
Sorry, I forgot I wasn't on mute. Let me mute.
Okay, so you're muted, Michelle. I guess you did that on purpose. Okay, so I'm not really clear, Carolyn, on, is this you know this person, you met this person, and you're going to introduce them to someone else, and you cannot remember their name? Is that correct? Or you want to go ahead and unmute and just clarify that question for me? I don't know if she can.
Yes.
Okay.
I answered, but yes. If you
Okay.
don't, if you get,
yes,
you just
perfect.
You lose their name.
Okay.
Gone.
So there's actually, for me, I have two answers, probably the politically correct and, you know, then how I am. So what I would do if I had forgotten their name, I would introduce this person that I'm introducing them to first and say, I just wanted to bring him over and introduce him to you, John. And John's going to reach out his hand and say, oh, hi, I'm John Smith. And your person is going to say, oh, I'm Jane Doe. Nice to meet you. They're going to do the introduction for themselves. You don't need to worry about that so much. And the reason I said, you know, that's probably the politically correct way to do it. For me, I'm okay, you know, taking one for the team and just saying, oh my goodness, your name just escaped me. I'm so sorry. I'd like to introduce the two of you. And then I let them introduce themselves again. So then I get to hear the name, you know, that kind of thing. But I'm more than happy with telling people I've got a little memory loss. You know, I like to joke around it. I've had some concussions, you know, so. So I'm honest. I just am honest.
I think people appreciate that too, for sure.
Yeah.
Hey, I got a question on the business cards again. If you, maybe if you aren't currently employed, but perhaps you're coming to this conference to network and kind of get back out there, you've been at home with your kids or you've been unemployed for a while or whatever, and you're starting to want to work again. I mean, do you make a business card? What do you do?
So I love that question. And I will tell all of our viewers that are going to the WISE conference, we do have business cards that are blank, basically. You know, it asks for your name and your email and phone number. You can, and it's got the WISE logo on the other side, just so that if you don't bring any, you run out, whatever, we have those available for you so that you can fill it out and give it to somebody else that you meet at the conference. But yes, if you're in transition and you are just now breaking back into the networking arena, please go ahead and get some business cards. What you really want is your name and your contact information to be correct. If you're in transition, if you want to put the position that you're looking for or the type of professional that you are, put that as your title. But yes, definitely using a business card is so helpful when you're out networking, because you know, you can't always carry your resume, although, you know, thinking about it, you could put a QR code on a business card too that has your resume. So think a little bit outside the box of how you could use that as a more than just a tool of contact, but also you could give it to a prospect, an employment prospect, so they can go and get your resume. Think about it that way too.
What do you have any thoughts on like snail mail? Like if you meet someone and you can find their address, like through their company and send them a card, like a thank you card or really nice to
Yeah.
meet. Is that too old school?
No, actually,
Okay.
people love to get mail, Michelle. They love to get mail, and especially if, um, you know, you have send out cards, which now can do your handwriting in the card, which I think makes it so much more personal. But you can also, pick up some note cards at your local store and just fill it a nice, hey, just a note to say, thank you so much for your time. I enjoyed meeting you. Again, bring something into that thank you that lets them know you are really listening, you're really engaged. This is not just a template that you're following as a follow-up. I think that's a great idea. I love the snail mail because people still love to get mail.
And then what about when you're meeting someone or you're being introduced? Would you, like, sometimes on the fly, I can't come up with something, but would you kind of be like, spend a couple of minutes preparing and meaning like, is there, I don't know. Like originally I was going to ask you, would it be worthwhile to make like a writing pen with like your name and contact information and hand it to them when you meet them? Be like, hey, with your business card. Or does it make sense to just verbally have something memorable to say, or a question or a compliment, or I don't know where I'm going with this, but like just something to make you stand out a little bit more and be even more memorable, especially if there's a lot of competition and you're in this certain, I don't know, world that I don't know.
No, to stand out, definitely. I encourage people to, if you're able at the event to do a commercial, be creative about your commercial. Do something a little bit silly outside the box if you can. With your story, make it something a little outrageous, maybe the craziest thing you've ever done, or whatever. Something like that will instill in their memory of who you are. The other side of that is I don't really encourage the handing of a pen or anything like that when you're networking, but I do encourage you, if it's appropriate for your industry, to have your picture on your business card. And the reason I say that is because that really helps me remember who you are. And while it's sitting on my desk, you are building a relationship with me because I'm seeing your picture in front of me every day. And the next time I see you, I feel like we're old friends. I feel like I've known you for a very long time because your face has been on my desk, right? So I'd encourage you to do that as well. Promotional products are great, and being able to use them strategically is really important. How are you going to use it? Where are you going to use it? What type of thing are you choosing? That sort of thing. So that would be something a little bit further down the line, I think.
Okay. Do you have any other chat questions?
I do not see any. I'm hoping I'm not missing anything.
Okay, well, I got another one, and then I promise I'm done. I'm going to literally do this all day. But I do have a really good one because I'm trying to think of situations that I've been in, and I wish someone could have coached me through them, maybe with a little more finesse. What if you are supposed to follow up with someone and you follow the rule that you said, and you follow up and you're still not getting a response? Like, how many times are you supposed to reach out to this person before you just say, okay, that's a lead that I'm just going to have to move on from?
Yeah. So I would say, if you send a couple of emails and you don't get anything, you're not getting any kind of response back, I encourage you to pick up the phone. If you have to leave a voicemail, maybe this is your third contact, right? You've done a couple of emails and now you're making the phone call. In my voicemail message, I would just say, hey, I really don't want to bug you. I really enjoyed visiting with you at this event, and I've got some things that I'd love to talk with you about. I think the more genuine and honest you can be about that, and you're really not trying to be intrusive to anyone, and
Right.
you really are trying to make the connection. And so I think when they can hear that in your voice and they hear that sincerity on that voicemail, I really think you'll get a phone call back, probably either a phone call or an email back to one of your emails that will say, I'm so sorry, I've been so swamped. I've been wanting to call you back. I don't think they're ghosting you by any means. I think that life just got in the way and your email got buried. So I never would take it personally, but I would definitely, on the third time of contact, I would leave that voicemail to encourage them to reach back out. Yeah.
Sorry, I lost my mute button.
That's okay. I do not see anything else in the chat. And I have so enjoyed this presentation. Yeah, this worked out really, really well. Thank you for all your great questions and the ones that were in our Q&A too. I appreciate those. I probably should have done this. This is my contact information. If there's anybody on the call that doesn't know how to get in touch with me, I encourage you to reach out to me anytime, because I really am happy to help wherever I can, help you make a connection in any way. So
awesome. We know you are. Thank you so much for all of this expertise, all of the tips. I'm definitely got a little fire relit to get motivated, to get my ducks in order for next Wednesday. Because next Wednesday is
Hopefully everybody will think about these tips next week when we come in person at the WISE conference, and, you know, come ready to go. So
absolutely. So thank you so much, Dawn. And we will see you guys on Wednesday for the conference. Looking forward to it.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.
Bye, Dawn.
Bye, Michelle.